We're sitting at an inflection point for ICP, and this is something that I think is very, very important and something that actually the market has been waiting a long time to make an actual final decision on, and that's of course been reflected in the ICP price. Now, of course, we haven't seen ICP really do anything too crazy as far as price movement is concerned, and I think a lot of that is because we are actually waiting on this kind of confirmation of how is this Caffeine AI thing going to be. We've heard a lot of talk about it for several years at this point. I think it's a very, very well anticipated and hyped up product. I think a lot of how price moves, especially in probably the short to medium term, is going to be a lot of just based on how we expect to see Caffeine AI kind of run into kind of the future of crypto, and can ICP kind of be the foundation that it's built on. And so I think really that's kind of what we've been waiting on for ICP so far. Now I want to go in and I want to jump into kind of what we've seen recently out of ICP, how it's compared to the rest of the crypto market, and then what we need to see from this caffeine launch coming in potentially 7 days from now. There's definitely going to be something happening at the World Computer Showcase regarding caffeine. What exactly that is, we're still a little bit kind of up in the air on, but I do think it's very, very important for us to understand what, kind of what happens there, and then we can start to get a better sense of what comes next. So first off, I want to take just a quick look at the ICP chart, and we can see fairly clearly, we had a really nice run up in December, but since then it's basically been down only. We've started to kind of find our support here on the bottom, and if we kind of zoom in a little bit, we can see that we're starting to, see a little bit of upward price pressure, but we haven't seen anything too crazy. I mean, well, the market is kind of rebounded fairly substantially. We're kind of sitting near the kind of the cycle lows that we have seen out of ICP. So not necessarily the most inspiring movement in terms of price from ICP recently, but I do think that, there is definitely kind of some of that potential showing that we are showing a trend shift, which could mean that we're seeing a bit of a sentiment change for ICP. And if we do start to see a little bit of a pump, we could see a huge pump. And so, we've kind of seen this before in the past with ICP. If we kind of zoom out, again, this is looking at the daily chart. So, we're kind of looking at longer time frame pictures here, but we can see, when we start to see some bottoms here, price can just really take off. Same thing here, kind of stuttered out and kind of had that final capitulation, then we really took off. Same thing if we go back in here and we look kind of back in the March timeframe, same type of thing. Even if we look before, we kind of saw that that kind of major run up into 2024, we saw things kind of not really doing a whole lot, and then we started to see some of that positive price momentum coming back to the upside. So definitely still a possibility here. It's just we haven't actually seen it really perform at the level that we would generally expect, given what we've seen out of the rest of the market here. So if you are interested in trading ICP, doing anything like that, I do have that link in the description below to both WEEX as well as BTCC as well as Phemex. BTCC, as you can see, is the one that I use mainly here. It's been a really, really great place to trade. You can't see I've actually been doing a decent bit of trading. We actually had a Bitcoin position that we did about 48% on, again a 4x, so nothing too crazy there. We also did another Pi trade. We talked about this on the channel as well, doing 62% on Pi, so really nice. And we do still have some of those positions open. I did fully close the Pi trade, but this XRP trade we've been hanging on for a very long time. You can see here SUI actually falling below up 100%, but we've been in this trade for quite some time as well. And then of course Ondo and BTC still holding those pretty well also. If you are interested, want a 10% bonus on first-time deposits, as well as up to $10,055. I do have all those links in the description below if you are interested. We also have been trading on WEEX as well. You can see here up 250%. This is actually the second TARS play that I've made. I made about another 350 or 400% also. We've been doing really, really well off of TARS. You can see here a 20x long. This is kind of the net after, kind of my scaling out. I usually scale in and scale out of positions, as I mentioned. So if you are interested, want to follow along, I do also have that Discord in the description below. I don't really post too many trades in there, but if that is something that you guys are interested in, obviously feel free to join. Then we can talk a little bit more about trading strategies, what I'm doing, maybe what I'm looking for, what I'm avoiding, all of that type of good stuff. Now, moving on, I want to kind of discuss where ICP sits in relation to kind of the rest of the crypto market. So again, if we just take a super quick reference back here at the ICP chart, we can see kind of that really long sell-off and then not really much of a bounce off the bottom here. If we look at the total too, which again is the entire market cap of crypto excluding Bitcoin, we can see similar sell-off here, but the bounce has been very substantial. This type of bounce, we've basically seen almost nothing out of ICP from here. And so that means that we've had a lot of others in the space that have done quite well, while ICP relatively has not done anything. Now, of course, I do think this is because of this type of wait and see approach that we have seen from kind of the community surrounding Caffeine AI. That, again, is at least my opinion. I could be right, I could be wrong. I'm not really certain on that. But we can see definitely running into a little bit of resistance here for all of the altcoins. So if we do see altcoins start to sell off again, it will probably negatively impact ICP like we have seen it. But the problem is we're not getting any of that positive impact when it rebounds. This, of course, is a big issue and something that we do need to kind of take a closer look at to see why exactly, right? Now, of course, if we do look at Bitcoin dominance, a part of this is because we really haven't seen anything super crazy happening out of altcoins. Bitcoin dominance continues to rise up and up and up and up. If we see here, just for like reference, this kind of peak right here was in the middle of November. This is when we kind of ran into that alt season. We saw things sell off about 5% of Bitcoin dominance, or about 7% of Bitcoin dominance, which was a decent sized run, but nothing too crazy. We saw a little, very tiny rotation out of here. This is about 3 to 4%. But just to show you for like clarity and context here, that we actually have not dipped below what the highs were back before we ran into this alt season. Very limited and lame type of alt season, if you ask me. But I just want to show like we haven't really seen anything coming out of all of the alts yet. I mean, we're not even back to what the highs were prior to that November and December rotation. So right ever since then, we've seen just a really strong rotation, basically out of everything into Bitcoin. We can see here we have a couple of different trend lines. I will show you what we've got. So this first one is kind of that higher sloped trend line. We did actually break out of that kind of in the May area when we did start to see alts perform at least a little bit better relative to Bitcoin. But if you look here, we've kind of just been following this super trend that's been going on ever since the beginning of 2024. So ever since like essentially, I guess this is like the very end of 2023, we've been in this uptrend where Bitcoin dominance has only risen steadily over time. Meaning, I mean, obviously we had a limited kind of break here where we saw alts do a little bit of some running. Obviously, we saw a tiny break here, again, with this very limited alt rotation that we have seen, but it's very clear to see that it's just basically been up and to the right over time, meaning that we haven't seen anything really inspiring at all out of altcoins. So I think, one, this is going to be a very important thing for us to realize as we're starting to decide when to get into alts. Now does not appear to be the best time to do that, but also as we start to look kind of ICP relative to others, even though ICP has been an underperformer, there is always that chance that when we do get into an alt season, we could see ICP completely rocket because it does start to catch a bid, starts to catch a narrative, a lot of that type of stuff. Same thing here if we do look at Caffeine AI, actually only 2 posts, so haven't really been too active here. This is kind of the main reason why I actually don't think we'll see a Caffeine AI launch on June 3rd, because there hasn't been any marketing, there hasn't been any buildup, there hasn't been any hype generation, there hasn't been any of this. Now, that might be in true ICP fashion to not really do any marketing and just cold drop a product. I guess that would kind of make sense. But this seems very unlikely to me that we'll just see Caffeine AI coming out in about 7 days. So I do think it'll probably be closer to end of Q2, maybe even Q3, possibly even Q4. Who knows? I'm not in the internal team there, but I do think that is probably what we see coming from the ICP team as it relates to Caffeine AI, just because we haven't seen anything quite yet in terms of kind of that hype generation and stuff like that, like I was saying. However, though, I do think that a week from now, when we do that World Computer Showcase, it's going to be really interesting to see what they actually do have ready, what they can demo for us, how the general market reacts to this. I think if something really quite groundbreaking is released there or showcased, then I do think we could start to see a little bit of that bidding action going on, because of course the market's always trying to price in with as much information available as possible. So hard to say for sure, but I think it's obvious to see right now that the ICP has been a clear laggard, underperforming quite massively compared to the rest of the alts that we have seen kind of make that run. we'll see if that holds. We'll kind of see what goes on over the next couple of weeks, months, years, whatever. But at least for right now, I kind of view this as a key inflection point. How does the market react towards the Caffeine AI news? If we don't see it react positively, or if it's fairly neutral, then I think at this point it's going to be a little bit more luck than anything else that catches a bid for ICP, just because we haven't really seen any of that positive sentiment or anything like that. So we'll have to see, kind of what happens there. But overall, I do think that the technology is still very, very good. I still think the underlying tech can actually send us into a decent bid, but there's a lot of things that have to happen, and none of them appear to seem to kind of be hitting at this point. So overall, those are kind of my thoughts. I do think caffeine can be kind of a key inflection point to get us back on track there. But again, we just have to see, wait, and kind of figure out how that goes. But overall, if you did find the information in this video useful, a like and a subscribe really, really does help me out. I'm, of course, always still trying to grow the channel, and so your support does, of course, massively help. And then if you have any thoughts, comments, feelings, whatever, just drop those in the description below in the comment section, and then I will read and respond to all of those. Also, if you are interested in trading or following along or things like that, let me know if that is something of interest to you. I have, like I said, I do have that Discord group. I haven't really been doing too much like trading notifications or anything in there, but that is something that I can go on and kind of do if that is something that there is some appetite for. We've obviously been crushing it lately, so want to help you guys learn. I don't really want to just like spoon feed calls. That's not really my my preference there, but if that's something where you could help you learn how to trade and how to be a better trader and things like that, obviously, of course, feel free to message things like that. I really appreciate it for everything and all the time and everything. So, of course, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.